Beach FM, locals talking to locals.
I have to say good morning to our Mayor, Kapiti Mayor, Guru. Kia ora, Guru. How are you, sir?
Good.
Good. Now, I went along to your Waitangi Day exhibition in the afternoon between 1 and 3. A very nice set-out exhibition. I found out a little bit of history of the coast, and I've got to go back because that exhibition's going around to the libraries, isn't it?
That's right.
Yep. How did the morning...
It'll be at the Parapama Library, then it'll go on to the Waitangi, the Otaki, then even a stint at Paikakariki.
Right. Now, did you have a number of ancestors tied up with the signing of the treaty come along in the morning show?
They did, and that was really interesting because they had direct links with the original signatories. The only one that couldn't make it was Tirau Prahas. She was tied up with something happening in Purirua, but she will be coming in the next few weeks, probably towards the end of this month, and I'll make sure that I'm there when she comes.
Right. No, the history that's written up there, it's worth going along to, and I should imagine schools will get a lot of value out of that if they would, kids will go along to that.
That's right. So the thing is, we reduce it down to just the core of what Waitangi Day is all about. It is about the treaty and having a link with the descendants of the original people who signed it in the Kapiti coast. And I think the version, it was signed on Kapiti Island, Motungara Island, Waikanai, Otaki, and also here in Parapama Beach. So it is quite significant.
It is indeed. I did miss, though, the festivities of what we've had in the past, but hey, you've got to break the tradition now and again and get down to the nuts and bolts, I suppose.
Yeah, but I think we are doing a debriefing of that, and I think that will be one of the issues that comes up.
Okay.
So next year's one will be even better.
Oh, good. Okay. Now, I see the Kapiti Economic Development Leadership Group is going to be wrapped up. They're not doing a good job.
No. I think there's a change in focus. The work that they've done has actually been quite good. But council, one of the problems we've got is council runs, we've got to see what's good for what council does. Eventually, of course, there may be a need for a economic development agency, if you like REDA or something like that, or a smaller version of it. But that needs a whole lot of funding, and so we are not quite up to that. It's got to be resourced. So we've got a new economic development officer, Sarah Todd, which has been actually quite brilliant in putting this thing together, and we are working on a program to actually be better able to use a strategic approach to facilitate groups, volunteer groups or business groups that are already outside to work. So we'll be working towards a advisory group. So people from a number of different sectors of the economy who can provide counsel with advice, rather than having a leadership group outside.
So, I mean, Sarah Todd, the new council manager, she'll be working in with the REDA, I should imagine. We should say what REDA is, Wellington Regional Economic Development Agency, isn't it?
It's part of a work contract that she works a couple of days in Wellington.
Oh, yes.
And so that keeps the link. And because, everybody knows if Wellington prospers, so do we.
That's right, but I think Wellington forget about the Kapiti Coast now and again, but now we're trying to make them more aware of it, and I think they are becoming more aware of the importance of Kapiti Coast, aren't they?
I think the two things. One is the council has been proactive in that sense, and whenever I've had a chance to read our meetings and all that, I do push and try and give them a bollocking about what bang for bucks do we get down here. Yes. It has not been measured. And the other thing, of course, I think the chamber here has also been proactive in pushing for better transparency in terms of what we get out of this REDA investment. We invest $500,000 in them, so we need to look for returns. So having Sarah down there working with them allows us a better insight, and also the networking is much better.
Okay, so in this new Economic Development Advisory Group, will you have people from outside the council feeding into this with Sarah?
Definitely, no. The advisory group is the one that's going to be mostly, especially people from outside the council providing us with advice. Because you've got key players outside in different sectors of the economy.
Right, so we've got Rita coming up here for a bit of a chat with us in a couple of weeks' time, haven't we? That'll be a very interesting night for both councillors, people who want to get the Kapiti Coast up and running, to get along and have their say and listen to what Rita's got to say, because we need to put the pressure on them, don't we?
Well, yes. The other thing, of course, I mean, from Wellington side, they've always said that what is good for Wellington is good for us, and we need to also turn that on its head and say what's good for the region, not just Kapiti, or the Wairarapa and stuff. It's also good for Wellington. There needs to be a stronger partnership.
Right. Now, you've got a bit of a problem here, about $240 million problem with Kapiti properties to protect them from flooding. Now, how are you going to tackle this one, Guru? Because I presume if you don't do anything about it, you'll get it. If you do something about it and spend the money, you're still going to cop it. So how are we going to handle this?
This is the stormwater.
Yes, the stormwater.
Yeah. In 2015 we had two flood events.
Yes.
One in 100 flood events, and it showed up something like 700 odd properties which were affected by the flood. And we know that we have got about 6,000 properties which are flood prone in the whole district. Okay, so like a lot of things, we are prioritizing it. Those properties which have got the potential of water to come into the house, living areas, they get a higher priority. Houses properties where the garden gets flooded, or ponding areas and all that, they do not sit so high in the priority list. The funding will have to be, so using that measurement, we need to push out projects out in future years so that we can actually afford to do them. It's a tough ask. That's why the long-term plan is going to be a really tough juggling between the priorities. And then you've got all the properties along the coastal front with their desire for seawalls. And there's only so much money that we've got on hand. So how do we balance this?
Yeah, well, we couldn't afford $240 million over a 10-year period, could we?
No, you can't. I mean, you're looking at 40 to 50-year projects ahead.
So in the meantime, some houses could get flooded because we can't do the job.
Well, there is always the danger, and this is the risk management that we need to look carefully, because we also need to see that with the climate change factor, more intense rains and all that. So even like the last couple of days, with the heavy rain, I'm asking staff to keep me informed exactly as to what's happening.
Yeah, sure.
Because this is a fact of life. We originally said we cannot afford to have the nice-to-have projects and stuff like that. But things like stormwater, seawalls, and stuff like that are not nice-to-have projects. They are sometimes essential needs, and this is the core activity.
So is this where the government could come in and assist, especially with the coastal erosion? Could they be putting in some money towards this?
Well, this is a national conversation. The local government of New Zealand has been pressing central government to be more proactive in that area, because just ratepayers alone, like council here, 70 to 80% of our rates come from, our income comes from ratepayers, residential ratepayers. We can't afford those massive projects, right? Particularly if the priority is to have them earlier to cope with the potential increase in rainfall and sea level rises and stuff like that. So unless the government comes to some kind of arrangement with local authorities to help that, we'll be hard-pressed.
Yes.
That's only one area. There are a whole lot of smaller councils and stuff having to deal with sewage disposal, treatment plants and stuff like that, which they can't afford, or water treatment plants which they can't afford. So who knows, the government may want to step in and have a national level agency to deal with it. I think on the water side we might be heading in that direction.
So does it seem as though we might have to have a fairly high rate increase to cover some of this?
Well, we need to do it smartly, and that's why we need our database for where the priorities should be, where the risk is. So at the end of the day, this is risk management. If we had the money, we could do it, everything at the same time, but we don't. So we have to work out where are the high risk areas and manage those first with the limited funds that we have. And of course, at the end of the day, it could be a question, especially in the seafront areas. I've said it during my election campaign itself. I mean, and some of the people have agreed that it could be a question of targeted rates for those particular areas. If you want the seawalls, we could go in partnership and a targeted rate to help it get it over the line.
It's going to be a difficult one. So this long-term plan meetings you're having at the moment, fairly contentious, I suppose.
In March, the public consultation process will start. So you'll have just over a month for the public to come back and tell us whether we've got it wrong or they've got different views, where the money should be spent. It's all open. Of
course, we all want McLean Park developed, but we all want Otarawa Park developed. So there's, as you say, the dollar can only be stretched so far. So it's a big job for the council to make up its mind as to what it's going to do. But when you come back to the flooding issue, that's most probably the top priority, isn't it?
Well, I mean, you recall in the annual plan process where we increased the ratings for the stormwater one, there was one area where the public response was always positive on the area, simply because it was fresh in their minds. The 2015 floods, the two floods, were fresh in people's minds, so that makes it easier for them to understand the investment needs to go in there.
Yeah.
But that's why it's a priority areas. We need to look at which are the more vulnerable areas and see how we can stretch the dollars to provide the infrastructure that they need.
We'll have to go into quantitative easing. That's producing money, and I think we'll be okay, Guru. I've got a machine at home. I can turn the handle.
Well, we'll ask some help from the U.S. Treasury, you reckon?
Absolutely. Guru, thank you for your time today, and we'll talk next Monday if we can.
Okay, mate.
Thank you.
106.3 Beach FM.